Kiki Classic Rock.
From his time in the bands Trapeze, Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, and currently the Dead Daisies, this legendary musician has given us decades of his heart and soul, both on stage and in his music. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2016 with Deep Purple, is an author, and he is known as the voice of rock. Glenn Hughes, legendary Glenn Hughes, thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
It's my pleasure. How are you?
I am doing great. And it's just crazy, talking to you. You are such a legend. You're part of the original rock triangle, Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, and Led Zeppelin. Isn't it crazy?
It is. I mean, think about all those decades that have gone and the crazy stuff that happened. And here I am still doing what I do.
Now, 50 years plus into this journey that you've had, did you ever imagine you would see the day that music would halt in its tracks?
No, well, music in general, it's the same, but the business side is not the same. And it's just a whole different animal. Whereas, let's just say 4 or 5 decades ago, it was all about the music, and then it became corporate. And now I believe that what's happened to us in this epidemic and pandemic is that it's going to bring people together more musically, and people are going to appreciate it more.
Oh, I totally agree. Totally agree. We can't wait to get you guys back on the road. I will tell you that much.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Glenn, when you were in your band, Trapeze, you were being checked out for some time by Ian Pace, Richie Blackmore, and the late John Lord for Deep Purple. Now, Glenn, you were like 19 years old, and were they watching you for about a year?
They were watching me for a year. And right in front of me, they kept coming to see me perform. And I was so young, I had no idea that they were actually going to ask me to join. This happened over the course of about 9 or 10 months in 1972, 73. And it became obvious that they wanted me to join. Mm-hmm.
But now as a young man, and Deep Purple was huge at that point, you didn't jump at that opportunity right away. Is that correct?
I wasn't sure because my band, Trapeze, was becoming quite famous in America, and we were doing a lot of business. And then I had to ask myself some serious questions about what I wanted to do for the next 10 years or so. And it was a difficult decision for me to leave my band. But then I found myself in the comfort and the love of Deep Purple, so it was remarkable.
Now, Paul Rodgers, he was supposed to be the lead singer, but he went off and formed Bad Company. So
correct.
David Coverdale, after you joined, was then auditioned. What was it about David that made you guys want him at that moment?
The band wanted to have 2 singers. I was one of them, and they wanted a lead singer without a guitar, And they were looking for someone with a bluesy voice, and if you will, kind of like Paul's voice. And David fits the bill. I mean, it was a perfect sounding voice to what they wanted. Again, 2 singers, and the blend of my voice and David's voice in that first rehearsal was so great that the band decided that this was the way to go.
And people kind of looked at 2 lead singers as a little weird, right? I mean, what are you doing? But you guys shared that spotlight in a great way.
Back in the early 70s, there were not a lot of bands with 2 lead singers.
Right.
There was Cream, as you know,
mm-hmm.
in the 60s. And then there was Three Dog Night in the 70s and the early 70s. And there was Humble Pie. And that would have been basically it. So David and I were the first vocal duo of the 70s.
Was there ever a clash between the 2 of you, though, like as you were the 2 lead singers?
Never, ever. We never. I want to give you a good visual. When we started to make the first album with David called Burn, we were in the studio and it was a case of, no, I insist you take the first vocal melody. No, sir, you take it. It was that polite, It
Wow.
was really great.
And that's crazy. You know, rock, polite, those two words just don't seem to go together.
Well, David had not really had any experience behind in the studio, and he was a northern chap like I am. So we were kind of kindred spirits, and we had such a great chemistry as friends as well. There was no competition whatsoever because we have both different voices. So, and we've had 50 years of a friendship here, so it's a beautiful thing.
Oh, absolutely. And we have to talk about April 6th of 1974, California Jam. You guys, Deep Purple, co-headlined with Emerson, Lake and Palmer. That festival was considered at that time the loudest and the highest grossing music festival in history. 250,000 tickets were sold, but about 150,000 people jumped that fence.
That's right.
To see you.
Yeah.
So Glenn, looking out at that crowd, what was that like for you to see those people?
You know, when I walked out on stage, the vast sea of people was so mammothly big that we couldn't see the end of the realm of people.
Wow.
It was beyond what you could ever imagine, and the audience was so amazing, and we were so ready to go. It was, as you know, a very explosive show.
Oh yeah,
with lots of
very
fire, lots of stuff on the stage being blown up, and people could have been injured. But it was a very, very intense rock and roll extravaganza show.
And they kept comparing it to Woodstock, yet California Jam was super peaceful, even though hundreds of thousands of people were there.
It was a very peaceful show, very well organized. I don't think I've done a lot of these kinds of shows, but that show was very, very promoted appropriately, and it was great.
And like you said, you opened the festival with Burn from the album of the same name. Eddie Van Halen once said that was his favorite guitar riff of all time. What do you think it was about that riff to make him say that?
I knew Eddie well, so, you know, he loved that song, and I'm very grateful because he's a sweet, I miss him. It's a huge riff, and very simple, by the way. So with me, I think always the simple riffs on guitar are the ones that stand the test of time. So I'm glad Eddie chose that song. But we love that song. I'm glad people love it.
Oh yeah, still do for sure. And still talking about California Jam for just another minute, but that's when, like you said, there was an explosion on stage. Richie Blackmore destroyed the neck of his guitar on an ABC cameraman's lens.
Right.
And he said you guys were not going on that stage until sunset. You were known as Dangerous Deep Purple, and you said once that you did not belong on a Deep Purple stage unless you were invited there because it was a dangerous place to be.
Because there was a lot of, I don't know, ego, whatever you want to call it, but there was a lot of danger because you never knew what was going to happen. And Richie was very volatile with his throwing the guitars, and you never knew when he was going to smash the guitar up, or where, or when, at what part of the stage he was going to do it. And it happened almost every night.
Do you miss that danger, Glenn?
I do. Yeah, I do. I say to you, rock and roll is not supposed to be wrapped up in a pink bow. It's supposed to be organic and raw and uncomfortable in sometimes, because I don't like it when it's wrapped up in a sweet, pretty bow. It needs to be raw.
So what was the most dangerous time to you that you've ever had on stage?
Well, again, this is another concert I played with Deep Purple again with Tommy Bowler in Indonesia, where I saw people being, maybe killed in the audience. Pretty badly promoted show in Jakarta, Indonesia.
Wow.
They let the dogs out on the audience. It was crazy. I saw things I never want to ever see again.
Wow.
I'm pretty certain people were killed on that show. in December of 1975. It was a horrible, horrible feeling.
Why did that happen? Was it just a political charged time, or
the Indonesia had gone to war that weekend? The security was actually the police.
Oh my gosh!
And there were lots of armed guards as policemen as security, and they had Doberman pincers that were the dogs, and they let the dogs loose on the people at the front of the stage.
Jeez.
And I was up there, and we were all up there, and we just couldn't believe what was happening.
And was that the show that you went to jail, or was that another one?
Yeah, my bodyguard was murdered.
Mm.
He was in my room, and he left my room, and the next thing I knew, somebody had thrown him down an elevator shaft. He hit the floor at the bottom, crawled into the lobby, and passed away. And the next thing I know, the police had taken me to jail because he was in my room. And of course, this is all propaganda, all organized by some militant coup where somebody was going to suffer. And that was an awful, awful incident.
I'm so sorry you had to see that and go through it. That had to be.
It was a nightmare.
Now, in your autobiography, Glenn Hughes, the autobiography, you talk about how you disappeared in the 90s, Glenn. You said you wanted to be anonymous, and then you went to Amsterdam to do that. So what was the weirdest thing you encountered while you were in Amsterdam, and what was it that brought you back out of anonymity?
Well, let's just say that I had two different lifestyles, as you know. You can imagine if you read my book.
Mm-hmm.
I've been clean and sober a long, long time. But let's just say that in the 90s, I wanted to go out and have one more drink, if you will. And I chose Amsterdam to be that place. And I was anonymous there, never used my name. But I found myself in some situations that were inappropriate, not knowing who people were around me. And it was dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it was a difficult time for me. But again, I had to go through it to become the man I am today. So let's just say the 90s were a period of time for me where was a difficult period, but in 1997, I completely turned my life around forever.
And what was that thing, Glenn? Do you think that one refining moment that said to you, "This is it. I need to change"?
I had a sheer moment of clarity. I was alone in my home, and I called the police and I called the paramedics, and I said, "Listen, you got to come over here and help me because I don't know what's going on in my house, but I need to go and be checked out because I'm not sure what's going on." And that was a moment where you realize that you can't carry on in that lifestyle. I was very brave enough to understand that I'd come to the end of a road of hell, and I was quite private about what I was doing, but it wasn't private to me because in between my ears there's a voice telling me, "You need to go get help," you know. And I'm smiling as I say that to you because that was 23 and a half years ago. So I'm doing good.
You're doing great. And you have been very open about your past and, you know, now your sobriety. So it is kind of one of those things where you're so lucky to be here. But Glenn, you really are one of the ones who are very fortunate to still be with us, be healthy, and be able to still do what you love.
Oh my God. You know, I've been able to keep my voice in check. I'm an athletic guy. I'm really, really into staying in the moment and exercise and helping other people. And the songs I write, I don't know if you know, but all the songs are not fictional songs. They're stuff that goes on in my life that hopefully everybody goes through. When I write stuff, it's about us as people, about planet Earth. And that's the message that I feel like I'm that messenger.
Now, on November 25th, you and your beautiful wife, Gabi, celebrated your 20th wedding anniversary. Huge congratulations to you.
Thank you.
What an exciting time that was, though. 20 years ago, you were touring Japan with Joe Lynn Turner. Then you toured Europe in support of UFO. And then you come off of those big events and you have a wedding. Now, how did you and Gabi meet, and was she ready for all of the craziness?
That's the good. Nobody asked that question, but it was a blind date.
Oh, come on.
My wife was a music producer, and she was hiring my drummer in my solo band. And one night they were having a discussion about, life. And, he said, you should meet Glenn. You should meet Glenn. I was single. I was a single guy, and she was a single girl. And it was a blind date. I didn't know anything about Gabi, and she didn't know anything about me. And I went to pick her up, and we've been madly in love ever since.
Well, because I see how you talk about her on social media, and I can tell just the both of you have an amazing love story there. And it's so cool to see, because a lot of, David has been, married to his wife a really long time, but it's wonderful to see a marriage that lasts in rock and roll, because it cannot be easy,
It really is. Again, so grateful to have found someone that understands who I am as a person, not about the fame or the musicality. But Gabi's very, very smart and very funny. And I need that in my life. I need someone who's really smart. And we're great friends. We do everything together. We read books together. We do everything. And, she's the greatest human being I've ever met.
Oh. Now, does she go out on the road with you, Glenn? When you head out again, will she be with you?
She can. She'll choose where she wants to go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm grateful to say that she can go, wherever she wants. But I choose to be, when I do business, I like, she'll come sometimes. She'll come with me wherever, somewhere she'll come. Normally in the Far East or in Moscow, she'll come, or London. But she'll travel sometimes, yeah.
That's very awesome. Now, in 2009, you became part of a supergroup. And this time it was with Derek Sherinian, Jason Bonham, and Joe Bonamassa, Black Country Communion. And in 2011, you won the Classic Rock Award for Breakout Act of the Year. You guys broke up in 2013. You got back together in 2016. And now you're on album number 5. I mean, there were some hairy moments between you and Joe. So how did you get back together?
We never really broke up. Joe's, as you know, very busy, and I'm smiling when I'm saying this to you. That we have to have some issues where you have to, wait for the right moment to make another album,
mm-hmm.
or and Joe and I have been talking about number 5 for about a year. We're going to get to it.
Yeah.
It's a matter now of getting the songs ready. So I would imagine in the next 18 months there will be some activity. We'll record an album and we'll do some shows.
And I think
I'm really looking forward to it.
And people are looking forward to that. I read, a bunch of comments in different places, and they want you guys to do this next album.
We have to do it. It's a part of my legacy and Joe's legacy that we must do number 5. It's very important.
Now, in 2016, again, great year for you. Lars Ulrich of Metallica inducted Deep Purple into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I love the speech that he gave. It was so from his heart. He said that Deep Purple is epic, unpredictable, and timeless. Now, what was it like for you? You're a legend, but to see another legend talk about how inspired he has been by Deep Purple.
A great story for you. My first show with Deep Purple in December 1975 was in Copenhagen. And I remember very clearly at that hotel before the show, there was about 50 fans outside the hotel. And I saw a young boy, he must have been 12 or 13 years old, with his father. And he had his eyes against the window, and I went outside to speak to him, and it was Lars Ulrich.
Come on. How would you remember that, Glenn?
Well, he remembers it. So he wrote the forward to my book. So Lars is a friend of mine, and we speak about this incident where he was a little boy,
Gosh.
And it was a moment I'll never forget, because I do remember that. I do remember it, and it's a thing that is remarkable.
You have a great memory because what I've read about you, and you've brought things up to people and they're like, how do you remember that? Because you've
God
had...
knows how I remember it.
I mean, it's just crazy. Now, during your speech at the ceremony, you said you were born in the UK, but your heart was in Detroit. So what, Glenn, was your biggest inspiration from the Detroit era?
First of all, what you don't know is my father had passed away that night.
Oh, my gosh.
I did not know it, Kiki. I didn't know, but I thought... I normally speak to my mom every day, and she didn't call me. She told me the day afterwards. So it was difficult for me. But I was trying to tell people that my voice I mean, I'm a rock and roll person, as you know, but I was influenced by Tamla Motown as a child. So for me to say to people, yeah, I'm a rocker, but, you know, my soul was born in Detroit. It's a homage to the great city of music, which I love. But the evening for me was again, something was going on in my life. I didn't know. I know my father was ill, but it was a difficult evening.
I'm so sorry. I really didn't know that, but
no, it's something. No, it's not publicized.
Man, I mean, because it was, you know, on one hand, I guess a magnanimous moment for you as a group and his history, music history, but then on the other hand, just a sad time.
You know, to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is a huge thing for a musician. There's not many people. A lot of my friends who are famous have never been in there. So I am so grateful to have gotten that award. I'm very, very grateful.
And it took you long enough to get in. So we're also grateful that, you know, Deep Purple finally made it into that institution. And you and David, you know, were wonderful that evening. You've been friends, like you said, for almost 50 years. Can you give us a really good Glenn David off the cuff story?
Well, we love to laugh. We've always loved to laugh, always. When I joined the band, I had my own kind of like cassette tapes I'd listened to, and I went into his room one night and he had the same tapes I was listening to, and I realized that we were listening to the same kind of music whilst we were making Burn, and we developed a strong friendship because of our love of music. But the thing with David and I, to this very day, I spoke to him yesterday, we laugh so hard about everything. You know, we have no time for sad stuff anymore. It's a different life for us now. So everything I do with him, we had lunch together a couple months ago, and it's always great to meet with him because we are genuinely very affectionate towards one another, and we care so much about each other.
It was just a meant to be thing for your friendship to happen, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. And
in 2015, I watched some footage of you performing with David in Whitesnake. What was that like for you? That had to be so fun. Well,
I told him I was going to go to the show. And I went there, and, I pull in and I get out the car and I go into the venue, and I walk up onto the backstage, and I can hear him running towards me. And he's got a microphone, and he said, "Here, you're going to sing songs with me." I'm going, "Well, I haven't warmed my voice up yet." "It doesn't matter. We're going to do it." It was like, okay. Well, I didn't, I went there just to say hi, and all of a sudden I'm on stage singing with them. So it was nice.
That's great. Well, it just seems so David, so fitting.
Yeah, very much so.
Now, you had your solo career, and the awesomely talented Doug Aldrich, who you work with now in the Dead Daisies, was also in your solo band. What was the deciding factor, Glenn, to join another band? Because you were doing fine as a solo artist.
I was doing great.
So, what was that about?
I'd done 3 years of touring classic Deep Purple music up until the last show was November 29th, 2019. And I'd come to a point where I wanted to do something other than I wanted to do something else, and I wasn't sure what it was. And then I got a call from the manager of the Dead Daisies, to see if I'd like to have dinner with David Lowy. And then we spoke about what they wanted to do and would I be interested in coming to see how it would work, and it worked great.
So you didn't have any second thoughts of saying, you know what, I want to continue with my solo career, but I'm going to go in this creative path and do something different.
Yeah, I'm still a solo artist. It's difficult to say because you can't work right now, but I get to do the Dead Daisies, and I get to do Black Country, and I get to do Glenn solo. So I'm very, very busy. But I do like to do other things. I think if anybody knows me, they know that I've got stuff going on. I mean, I'm a workaholic.
Well, the Dead Daisies seems to be very receptive to everyone in that group doing other projects, which is awesome because it doesn't always work out like that.
No, it doesn't. But then we have to be very honest with each other. So, but they know that I'm busy. And but listen, I've decided I'm going to be in this band and give it 100%. That's what I do with everything I do. If I'm in there, I'm going to give it everything. It's like it's nothing is part time for me. If I'm involved with someone, I'm going to give everything I've got. So hopefully, when people hear Holy Ground, they'll understand that.
Oh, and it is pretty dang amazing. I will say that. But going back to 100%, your voice. Everyone comments about your voice and how you still sound amazing. So, Glenn, what is the important thing that you do for your voice to keep it the way it is?
Oh, good question. I obviously don't smoke or drink. I'm an exercise fanatic. I breathing exercises. I'm vegan, a long time vegan. So no dairy products is good for me because I can't have that in my cord. And again, how do I say this to you? I have no fear when I'm singing. I'm a fearful guy, but when I'm singing at that microphone, whether I'm in the studio or in front of thousands of people, I have no fear. I'm in this glow of the moment, this present moment. The only moment that matters is when you're on there. So I do what I do.
That's what makes you a legend, Glenn, is that you can just stand up there and, make us all, take us all into your world, because I do notice that you stand there and sing and it's like there's no effort at all, but yet there is, because we love what's coming out of you.
It is breathing. People have asked me this question for years. Okay, I've got this big voice, there's 5 octaves. And
yes,
if you go close, if you see me sing live, you'll notice that I'm not straining. It's breathing technique. It's a very calming breathing technique, long, deep breaths and not really worried so much about what the next note is. If you worry, it's not going to be good. I just don't have any worries when I'm singing. And I do come from the blues aspect of I'm always telling a story when I sing. It's always a story. I don't write about fiction, so I'm connecting with my audience.
Now, we've been playing Bustle and Flow here at the station, and listeners absolutely love the Dead Daisies. Holy Ground, that's due out on the 22nd of January. You're supposed to have a summer tour overseas with Foreigner and Judas Priest. Now, have you performed with these guys ever before?
Well, Judas Priest are really close friends of mine. I have performed with them, but not on stage. They were at my house a few times, and we had some music. No, both these bands are friends, and it'll be fun. It'll be fun to do that.
And everyone's looking forward to it. And we're, fingers crossed, everything happens. Really.
Yeah, hopefully, it's all going. We'll be there.
Now, your history in the music industry spans over 5 decades. What is the most cherished music memory you have had during these years?
There's many, Kiki. There's so many because of my songs. I am pretty much the main songwriter of any band I've been in the last 30 years. So it's the songs I bring in to sing. And each one has its life. Its own legs and life, So you can choose any of the songs I've written. You know, if you look at the catalogue of stuff I've written, and all these songs have their own story, and every time I sing them, I become part of that story, and it gives me so much growth to be a better person. So each song I sing, I mean, I've sung Burn a million times, and I still enjoy singing it. So, and it goes for me, it's just, I believe in what I'm singing. If I don't believe in what I'm singing, it's not going to happen, but I believe.
Well, we love hearing your story, Glenn. Please keep telling your story for as many years as possible. And I was blessed to be able to speak with Dean, David, and Doug, now you. And all of them have said it's such an honor to sing and play alongside of you. And for me, honestly, such an honor to be able to speak with you and hear your stories. And I really, really hope to see you in person this year. I wish you, Gabi, and all of your fur babies lots of love.
Thank you.
Success on holy ground. And Glenn, thank you so much for everything you've given to us in music. Thank you.
Kiki. Thank you so much.